Hello YouTube, welcome to our cozy corner. In this video we will break down the process of us creating a video game.
But first, let's get cozy.
Ready?
So we usually get this idea sparked by, something that we have been experiencing lately, or a journey that we're on, or anything actually that just caught our attention and inspired us. Because if there's something that makes you want to create a product out of, then you probably have a very good idea of what you want to do. And after we kind of sum up what we liked about that specific idea, let's say you just watched this new series. For us, it was Solo Leveling, and it's the best concept ever. And I mean, you can just build and build and build on that and create so many awesome things. But let's say you watch that and now you're completely devoted to creating a product based on this series. Then you sit down and you think, what did I like? What do I think has potential to be turned into something entertaining for a user? And then you choose the theme, so you've got that down, and then you look at the gameplay and think, what kind of mechanics can I build in for it to make sense with the theme and also be entertaining and fun. For example, if you're an artist or also very interested in the visual part, you choose a style, so 3D, 2D, horror, adventure, romantic, whatever, and then you can also dive into, maybe there's a storyline or a main character or something that you want to follow, or if it's just a repetition game where you don't have necessarily a quest or any purpose of playing rather than just making a better score. That's mostly how we start off any type of project, because these things help us a lot to have this type of clear direction in which we want to go, and we don't really stray off of it later.
After we have mapped out all these decisions, we can take a paper and create a list where we write down all the assets that we want to have in the game. And meanwhile, I work with place orders, and to parallel everything, she works on the assets. And here are some assets that we usually have in all our games, like a panel for a button, a panel for text, literally a mouse for the cursor, backgrounds, volume icons, all sorts of icons, menu icon, volume, settings icon.
Even the logo for the game. It goes in very many directions and it's very fun, but when you have that list, it makes it also much easier to keep track of the things that are still needed, and for him to also know what it will look like in the end based on my ideas. I also give him the overview of all the assets placed where they should be, so that he doesn't have to struggle with imagining where I meant that button to go.
Because
it's just
so
impossible.
helpful. Yes. In the same time, we can also decide on the resolution of the game if you want a landscape, portrait, square, because it helps us just fit in the background and all the other assets.
Plus we know what the game will be looking like, if it's for the phone or if it's for the laptop or if it's for the PlayStation or whatever.
Now to development. I like coding my stuff in Unity. Of course, I tried all the other game engines like Unreal and Godot, but Unity for me is so soulful, it's so personalized, because you create all your scripts and you can decide on all the game mechanics yourself from the beginning. And you don't have much help from the engine itself besides what it allows you to do. When we decide to create a game, I start off by making something move. Afterwards, I am deciding on how the core mechanics should look, and I start designing the architecture of the whole game. If you're ever interested in seeing some tutorials, just tell me down in the comments and I can do, because I love sharing code and I love explaining what I'm doing there. And let's say now that I have the character and I have the main mechanics, depending on what the game is like, I either add the enemy AIs or the obstacles or whatever you need to do to create a game loop. Because for me personally, an indie game, it's something short that has a loop that you can repeatedly play and have fun with it. Then we have the game loop. We take both a look, we play and we tweak the game. We start balancing it already. And afterwards, we just polish the game slightly, and this is where the first few hours in game development end on my side.
Also, if you're a game designer and you are the one that will create the assets, just using a theme sometimes isn't enough. You also need to choose a style of art, basically, of all the assets. And what's easiest for me is to do something that I'm comfortable with. Therefore, I usually try to do something more cartoony or sweet or thick lines and easy shading and all that, to not overwhelm myself, because frankly, the assets can be quite many. And if I do something that I won't be able to consistently make and do with ease, then it can get quite painful in the end. and also again inconsistent. I usually go back and forth between checking with him and also seeing what kind of resolution we need, and to just not risk that I draw something that will then not fit. And I usually try to use one brush entire time with the same type of thickness and a color scheme from the beginning to know how the game will look, because you decide on 2 main colors that you use and then one detail one that will pop and make things a bit more special. But if you look, for example, at the game that I made, the Temple Swing one, so many details, so many things there, but still the main scheme is this brown goldish color, desert inspired, temple type inspired, and the green details. And then Laura was obviously the more realistic type of main character, and I put a lot of effort into that. But it's this type of balance in that if you make one asset that is super detailed and then one that is almost boring, they will not really go together. And so finding a balance between many details and little details for all of them will make it much more cohesive and make sense.
And how do you do the UI stuff?
When I was playing many games, I didn't take in the vibe or the way that people build the menu. And for me, that's really interesting right now, because I see how he builds it in and to see what type of buttons you need there. But the thing is, not just the buttons matter, because I've seen games that were made by just one developer that didn't put any emphasis on the way that the UI and UX looked, and then it just didn't look good. Like a random font on a random panel, it looks not artistic. So that's it.
Yeah, you mentioned something nice regarding the UI. When it's good, you don't realize it's good. You don't pay any attention when it works. This is the curse of a game developer. When the game works, nobody looks at this detail. They just appreciate that it works. But the one detail that doesn't work, or it's unbalanced, or looks dirty, everybody will notice. Take Find Eden, for instance. I worked 1.5 weeks for these sliders, because I don't know, I just wanted them to be smooth, I wanted them to work, and I made them work for a controller, which was so difficult. But I did it and nobody noticed it because it works.
Everyone noticed that Timmy's head was in the way of jumping on platforms, but no one cares about that plant that is moving perfectly. It's not very rewarding in this regard, but when someone says, damn, this is smooth, it's music to our ears.
Very, very important part of working together is...
And creating products.
Oh yes, in game development is to maintain each other or yourselves. We are those people who are perfectionists about working on a product, and we tend to forget to eat or to sleep or to take breaks. And I know we made many videos about staying healthy and game dev pitfalls. We fall for them. That's why we make videos about and from our own personal experience.
It's that deep focus mode that just gets you so much progress, but it literally stops everything around you from working. Time passes, you don't realize that you're hungry, you don't realize that it's 4 a.m. in the morning. You don't. It's amazing. But these things can also lead to unclarity on what you actually are working on, because you might focus on a detail for 3 hours and then zoom out and finally wake up from that place and realize, oh God, this doesn't even make sense anymore. Why did I even start working on it? And working in extreme overdrive, where you also get tired and at some point you don't realize what you're working on anymore. Realizing that we still need to exist and live is very important. And it gets your product much farther, because taking a step back and looking at it again after you took a break, walking somewhere, just, I don't know, sleeping, can help you a lot.
And we for each other, when one has free time or is aware of the situation, offers the other person a drink or reminds the other person we need to eat.
What's also really helpful is that in a way our workload is not necessarily perfectly balanced. So once I'm done with my assets, I'm practically done. So usually I just give them to him and he includes them in his game. He adds the small features that are necessary for that game to even be satisfying to play on. But I end up not necessarily working on the game. And that's when I can take over cleaning the house, cooking something. Things don't stop while you work. That's the bad thing. People have lives, the house gets dirty and the fridge is full of food and you don't eat it. And so to have at least one person to be aware and to take care of these things at least is very important.
We are almost at the last step of creating a game together, and this is a very interesting one where we sit together and integrate her assets together. She has a vision on how the game can look, and I know how to place everything in the game, and we do it together.
A little pitfall that can happen there is that we don't really align on our expectations. But if we both sit down and look at it as a game, like, what could make this cooler?
Yeah.
Or are you willing to do that? Gives it much more ease in actually creating something that we both like in the end. And generally, because we had some questions about how we can reach a good result in game jams. In game jams, it's really important to decide on the final product and the energy you want to put into juicing it up. It's something that you don't really have time for when you create a quick game, but it also applies to longer projects because we all want it to look slightly different. We have different preferences, and to give yourself a limited amount of time that you want to invest in creating the final details is good, because otherwise you frankly can get lost and the product might end up like something you don't like and might actually not be finished in the end.
And you can envision us like this because we have this super short amount of time to create something, and we're both focusing on our work, me on the coding and she on the drawing, and we get attached to the creation. And then when we get together to try to integrate it, it's very vital for us to communicate before on the expectations, exactly as you mentioned earlier, because we tend to get defensive with what we created.
Yeah.
If she created some sort of art, like let's take a mushroom for instance, a 2D mushroom that should glow, change color, shake a bit, shake the top, it's just gets more difficult for me as a developer to integrate it because it requires coding and animation.
Yeah.
And if we didn't align it on it beforehand, she drew it. My code doesn't allow it. There is no time. It can get tense.
It can get very tense. You're
Yeah.
so right. And the thing is that I will sit there and think, I wasted my time on drawing this and I want it there. And I think this is going to be such an addition to the game. And he's going to be like, but it's not worth it. And that's why these things in beforehand, to decide on what will be the essential things that will make this game good, are really good to come down to.
Exactly, and here is why game jams have another benefit to creating games, because you learn this about yourselves before diving in a huge project. And the last step of creating a game is to record the audio. And obviously you can take free audio online from freesound.com or from YouTube library, but it's much more personalized when you create the audio yourselves.
And fun.
It's so funny. I guess we don't expect those results. We just know what the sounds should sound like, and we just make them with our mouths or random assets that we find around us. Because we already put so much effort into personalizing the whole game, from custom icons, custom font, why not go all the way and create custom sounds?
Exactly. We made this game where we needed to release birds from their cages, and instead of finding chirping birds, because that's not hard, we made them ourselves. And it was just so funny. It might not be awesome, not the best results, but it's just so much more own product when you do this type of thing, especially because you can make people laugh as well.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It was 3 in the morning and we were making bird sounds.
Yes.
Imagine
we're
what
crazy.
our neighbors might think we're crazy.
Yeah, that's fine.
We do the sounds in Audacity. It's free and I like it very much.
And a good microphone. Like this. One last thing, and I think this is very important, is when you have that final game, where do you publish it? How do you choose how to bring it to your public and how to get players to play it?
You can publish it on itch.io for free. It's super easy. People can play the games in the browser if you export it as WebGL, or they can download your executable for either Mac, Windows, whatever you want. It's very easy. If you want to make a mobile game, the easiest is to deploy your game directly on your device, because if you want to share it online, there are various platforms, but the official ones, they are Android Store and iOS Store, which are very difficult to upload on. It's not impossible, we've done it, but the policies change every month and you have to maintain them. We recommend itch.io. Please let us know down in the comments if you wish for us to make a tutorial for any of these steps, even how we record audio and how we cut the extra noises, or how we create prefabs, assets, Unity, whatever. You can stick around by subscribing and hitting the notification bell to see how we create more games together.
See you in the other ones.
Bye.
Bye.